You're at the end of the first phase, you could say, of religion worldwide. All those old religions, all Dark Age religions, they were all built on a time of ignorance. And they didn't know anything. And so they relied on myth, superstition, fabricated fantasies to explain all the stuff that they didn't know, which was a lot. They didn't know what a flood was. They didn't know what a volcano was. They didn't know what the Black Plague was. They didn't know. So they just made things up. Fantasies. Fabulous fantasies. To cover the ground. To explain. And all of it still came, like all religion does, it came out of the certainty of death. All, through time. No surprise, right? Everybody knew for sure life was temporary. You see it all around us. And back then, even more so, more apparent. Life was short and temporary. Born here, live for some duration and die. Let alone all the diseases, all the unattended psychosis, all the allergies and whatnot that nowadays, medically, if you're in a relatively developed country, you don't die from. But back then you did. Everything was extraordinary. Weird. Why did that happen? So they relied on myth. But all of those fantasies and whatnot are outdated. They're gone. And the big one is gone. That there's a God. Or gods. There never was. It was just another fabrication of ignorant people to explain, to try and give comfort, to try and say, well, death is certain, but and they made up a story. And every culture and every, from the ancient Greeks, ancient Babylon, Aztecs, Mayans, go around the globe. Incas, ancient Chinese, Japanese, Malaysia, India, everywhere you go, they have their old religions with a toga and sandals kind of approach. And those days are over. Because you've, through your intelligence, through actually studying, analyzing what is going on, you kept throwing out the myth. You kept pulling the rug out from the religion. And when you went into astronomy, Hubble Space Telescope photos, going to the moon, all these steps along the way kept popping the bubble of all the mythic justifications for those Dark Age religions. And those justifications were used to repress and deny rights to women, to deny rights to gays, to justify racism, segregation, prejudice, to justify violence against others who weren't part of the same little group as your little group, and therefore you thought, it was all made up. It was all based on ignorances. Well, those days are over. You can't keep lugging along all those Dark Age myths here in the 21st century. And those old religions, they can't upgrade because they're totally based on those myths, deceptions, fantasies. So of course, every survey taken shows that religious participation is declining. Of course it is. It's declining because you can't believe and go along with those fabrications of all those Dark Age religions here in the 21st century, when you got the internet, Facebook, the Instagrams, you got Hubble Space Telescope photos, you got the ongoing research and study into the cosmos with all sorts of space probes and study going on. You've got all the scientific research going on the planet because of climate change. You got all the medical research going on into all the reasons of disease and whatnot. And here's an example, even right now, going on at the time of this recording, is the COVID pandemic. And scientific research has jumped in there to show you how fast and how dramatic that scientific research can be to come up with these vaccines. And then you got the Dark Age people, idiots, saying stuff like, oh, don't get vaccinated. Religion will protect you. Jesus will protect you. And they're dropping like flies. It's a time to end all that religious fantasy. It's the end of that first wave, that first development, generation of what is called religion. And you can tell that it is by how strident, how rabidly unreligious are these Dark Age religions in their actions. They're justifying violence, racism. They're still justifying through their religion the repression of women, the repression of gays. They're still holding out and saying justifying violence against others entirely based on religion. They're just trying to, in the midst of COVID, in the midst of a reality of COVID, you're being told by myth people to not get vaccinated, that it was a fantasy, that it's a hoax, that somehow that Dark Age religion is going to protect you. And yet time and time again, it's popping the bubbles. Reality is popping the bubble of all those myths. And those religious groups are getting infected with COVID and dying. Well, reap what you sow, of course. But you're also seeing that that is the resistance to the obvious change that is underway, that's getting rid of all those Dark Age religions. Because you're ready to develop and understand and promote. It's like down through history, there's been a schism all the time. Religions have schisms. So from the ancient Hindu, the schism was into Buddhism. From the ancient Judaism was a schism into Christianity. And then there was another Christian schism, like Catholic and Protestant and all that stuff. All of them have it, schisms. Well, now we're in the schism away from all of those religions, Dark Age religions. And you're going to replace it with a 21st century religion that fits your intelligence, your scientific research, your medical research, your knowledge of history. And it's going to be vastly correct because it'll be based on reality, not myth. Reality is far more profound than myth. Because reality is reality. Reality is guaranteed. And what is that reality? It goes with the basics. You're born here, you live for some duration, you will die. That body will stop. The body is temporary. Fact. Death is certain. At some point, and for all sorts of reasons, death is certain. You will drop the body. And that's the 21st century religion approach. You stay with facts. There's no creation myth in 21st century religion. Zero, nada. There is no external entity watching and judging you. Fantasy. The idea of a god or gods, that's thrown out. You stick with the facts. And the facts are there within you. Not an external searching. No, it's already there. And the answer is already there within you. And that's where you look. That's where religion stays. And that's where you find the answer. Because your answer is, well, what is? Just like it's been down through the ages. Just what is? What if? Well, then death is certain. What do you do while you are alive? That's been the issue, right? And then, of course, what is death? And what comes after it? Does anything come after it? In 21st century religion stays with the facts. And it only goes as far as the facts. Because the rest can spin off into conjecture. That's what they relied on. It's developed into myth and ideas and fantasies. Well, when you die, then you go here and see. When you die, if you don't do this, because then you're going to go here. And if you do, then you're going to go there. And conjecture. Basically, conjecture. The certainty is that it will happen. And you will experience it. Only you. Directly. And then you'll know. But you died. You drop the body at that point. Yeah. Now you have people who do the near-death experience and all that stuff and whatnot, and they have some ideas and whatnot. But, well, okay. There's some variety in their experiences as well. And all of you who have had, say, the death of your parents or a brother, a sister, and whatnot, and you've directly been there with your loved ones when they died, you know from direct experience what happened. What happened to that body that animated your parent? It stopped. It stopped. It ended. Now what happened afterwards? And a lot of you will say, well, geez, I had dreams where my parents showed up in my dreams, and my say your sister or brother or wife or husband, they showed up in your dream afterward, and it was really revelatory. It was really big. Well, what's the surprise about that? Why is that so, is that mystical or scary? Well, folks, you share the brain. You have awareness. You're not appreciating what that means, what the extent of awareness means. So you have people that you met and you know very well for years. You've interacted with each other. You've been together. You've done things. Well, of course, you've shared a mental, you could say, condition between you. Well, what's the surprise that when one of them dies, that you still have a connection? You still see a dream person show up. Or you still have a feeling while you're walking around and you just say, I feel that they're here. Why is that so surprising or scary or some kind of mythic thing or, mystery? When actually, you all have the capacity for these things, for clairvoyance, for extrasensory perception, for clear dreaming, for all these things. It comes with the territory. Some of you have a propensity to this thing, some have a propensity to that, though, of course. It's never been, trained or developed because society has, down through the ages, has taken no interest in developing that kind of approach to living, because it's been societies that have been abusive to you down through the centuries and centuries, where you were just a pawn in the game of religion and culture and profit economics. Because that's what it came down to. It always came down to profit being more important than you and your life. So there wasn't much attention being generally about educating you about what it means to be alive. What's going to happen at death? What do you do while you have this body? And therefore answer your basic understanding through direct experience, not myth, not fantasy, not a belief, but an actual direct experience of what life is. No education system in general use today has any of that. They just want the approach is just get the basic math and science and whatnot, and then go out and make a job and money and die. What's that? So of course, people are uninformed, uneducated. They don't know, so they're scared. They're worried. Well, death. Even though it's certain. Even though it's one of the guarantees. It's probably the guarantee you can say about life. Is, well, at some point, death is going to happen. So it would behoove you to kind of know what that means. And how that will clarify how you live. And what you do while you're living. And that would naturally lead into an economics of you, instead of an economics of an abstraction of profit, of abuse, of dumping plastic in the oceans and on and on. It comes to an economics of you, to benefit you, because you're doing it. You're doing the system. It's benefit for you. And that becomes also the 21st century religion. It's you. Everything is coming out of your mind. Your decisions, your understanding, your perception. Everything. How you react to things. And in there is also understanding that how you're reacting is because how your parents trained you, how your family, how your culture, your society, what the indoctrinations were, advertising and propagandas and whatnot, that made you react, you would think instinctively, when actually it was fabricated. It was just how you were brought up. And the 21st century religion stays with the facts. Stays with reality. Because reality is far more profound than myth. Because reality is reality. Reality will be guaranteed. Death is certain. You're born, you live for some duration, you die. Guaranteed. You stick with the facts. And from basing on that, you have answers to what is the whole thing. What is life? What is death? And who are you?